Hey everyone, working on a few other things in the garage today, but I thought I would share and just pulled out my older abrasive chop saw next to the newer dry cut saw here. And while I was cutting a few things, I took some video of it and just wanted to show you a few of the differences between the two. Of course, dry cut saws are much more expensive compared to an abrasive chop saw. These are about, $100 to $200. These are probably anywhere from $600 to $1,000, give or take. But the difference in cut quality and the way they work is quite astounding. These ones come out perfectly cool after the cut and very clean, and these are a lot more messy. The other thing you'll end up noticing is abrasive chop saws create lots of dust. And it's annoying and it gets everywhere. Whereas when we look down here, this is what the dry cut saw makes. It's actually just a whole bunch of little metal chips, which at least don't stay in the air, and they're a fair bit easier to clean up and keep the space neat and tidy. But what I'll show you here is just the two cutting side by side, and I'll put a little timer up on the screen so you can see how long each one takes to cut through, which is 1/4 inch thick and 3 inches wide, just steel flat bar. And you can just see how much faster the dry cut saw is. And also I'll throw up some thermal imaging of each one after they've cut. I ended up doing 10 on this saw and just 1 on this saw, and you'll see just how much of a difference in temperature there is after as well. So let's take a look at that now. So here's the difference between the cuts. You can see on the abrasive chop saw how there's like melted metal here and all along the edge here. So this needs to get cleaned up with a grinder before you can do anything. And that's compared to the cuts out of the dry cut saw, which are almost perfectly clean. The other thing to notice here, once I throw up some shots from the thermal camera, is just how much hotter they are. I can handle the dry cut saw cuts with my bare hands, no problem, but I'm not gonna touch those. They're nearly 100 degrees just out of the saw, and it's just way too hot to handle. So you always have to have gloves on, and you have to be careful since some gloves will even actually melt with that sort of temperature. So I hope that was helpful and you learned a little bit about the difference between abrasive chop saws and dry cut saws. There is another one called cold cut saws, and usually those are the several $1,000 ones, have flood coolant to keep everything even cooler and cut at an even slower RPM. These ones in particular are usually about the same speed as a chop saw, a few thousand RPM. These are a lot slower. So this one I believe is 12 or 1300 RPM, just a lot slower of a cut, and uses a carbide blade. So you can see it's more like a normal miter saw where it has actual teeth compared to this, which is just like a grinding wheel and is abrading away through the metal, whereas this one is actually cutting through the metal. So I hope that's helpful and that you've learned something about the differences between the saws. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.